Hello and welcome. This is my first loot video of Delirium League. It's been almost a week now, so I just completed my first 100 map farming. So we are gonna talk about that real quick. So first of all, let's see how I started real quick, what I used. So I only had 17 maps to start with, and it was enough. Make sure you have at least 10 maps, maybe 15, and you are good to go. This is again, of course, a tier 15 farm, and I did some tier 16s, maybe like 10. And this was my atlas. Almost 130 completions, and almost no awakened completions because it is not possible at league start, obviously. So this is what I started with, and of course these numbers increased a little while I was doing the farm. And let's see if I showed anything else. Make sure you stock up your alchemies and scorings, of course, and sextants. I mostly used primes and a little awakens, and I also stocked up some sacrifices, and you are good to go. Don't forget the prophecies, of course, the Tempest. And if you are new to these kind of videos, I put these videos every league. Make sure you, and let me say that if you don't know how to do endgame farming, make sure you check my guide video. It is in the description, because I'm not gonna talk about how to do these in this video. This is just gonna be the loot and the comparison to 3.9 Metamorph League. I will compare it to my first farm of that league, and we will check how the loot is, because today it is Friday. They just deployed a patch that has some changes to Delirium loot and also monsters, all that kind of stuff. And I didn't do maps after that, so this will be before the buffs to the loot, let's say. But let me just say this, comparing to Metamorph, the pre-patch version, the loot was very bad. So Delirium loot just doesn't work compared to Metamorph, and that's why the profit is a little lower, probably. We will check that now. So let's just look at the loot real quick in game. Of course, the jewelers are again turned into fusings because I cannot fit them all together. There are like 1,500 jeweler or something like that. 2 exalted, I was very unlucky actually. Most of the time you get more in a 100 map. Ancient orbs don't worth anything these days because there's no nemesis here. So that's like only 10 chaos here. Some divines. Some of these are from sixlings again because of the sextant. Catalysts also don't worth anything this league. Even the most expensive ones are like 2 or 3 chaos. So these are some extra profits. You get some Shaper Guardian maps from the completion Atlas level, I mean. So make sure you get at least 5 or maybe 6 levels of Awakening level, so you can see those kind of drops more reliably. But I have like 4 bonus when I started, just got 7, almost get, I'm gonna get 8 soon, so the higher the better to increase these kind of bonus loot. There are like maybe at least 100 chaos here because they are very expensive. So some metamorphs, of course, it's like 10% chance to spawn. So I did 100 map, so let's see, 6, 7, yeah, I think there are 10, no 9, yeah. So 10% seems like, yeah, it is really seems like 10%. Some additional stuff, and all the maps were here, but I sold most of them. So let's just take a look to the spreadsheet because there's nothing much to do here. So this is the 3.10, the new one, and this is the one I'm gonna compare it. This was my first farm at Metamorph League, so it was again like Atlas level 4, maybe 130 completion, the same stuff. But the league was Metamorph, so the loot from Metamorph was in that. And this is Delirium. This is also in the description again, so make sure you check that, because I'm not gonna talk about everything here. If you are curious, every kind of currency is here, and the total sums are here. So let's just check the map drops, because that's the most important one. So I did, I believe, 80 or maybe 85 tier 15s and maybe 15 tier 16s, because I had some good map drops, tier 16s, good layouts, like Colonnade, and I also like Chateau. So I did some of those, so that's why there are some tier 16s. So this is actually 100 maps, not tier 15 only. There are like 10 or 15 tier 16s also. So these are all the map drops. So in a 100 map I got 84 tier 15s, so almost 100, but of course there are almost as much as tier 15 here in tier 16 section. So we got more than 150 maps talking about sustain. So map drop is still good, because you know that they changed the awakening bonus. This used to give 1 tier higher map drop, I believe, if I'm not wrong, in Metamorph League. Now they changed it, and it just increased the chance to get Atlas missions. So about Atlas missions, real quick, I didn't have much obviously when I first started the farm, and I used what I got when I was doing it. But in 100 maps, I maybe use like 50 missions, because you don't get these much often. Probably because I don't have enough awakening bonus objective. But even if you max out this, maybe it is still worse compared to Metamorph. I don't know, because I haven't tested it yet. So in a 100 map, maybe like 50 or 60 master missions I used. It is not 100% uptime. So it also affects the loot a little, but it was also the case in Metamorph, my first farm. So the loot should be similar normally, if you don't count the league mechanics. And then catalysts, oils, not much here. No silver, no golden. And this is the bonus loot you get from awakening level most of the time. You know, the guardians, synthesized maps, blight maps. These also provide a good profit. So the total earned is here, obviously. And let's talk about how what I spent real quick, and then I will compare the two. So this shouldn't be 42, it is 100 maps. So 100 maps, they are like most of time 10 chaos each, but some of them are 9 chaos. I'm talking about tier 15s mostly. So when I first started, I bought like 10 sieges, tier 15 sieges, because siege is a very good map, talking about mob density. So it is a very good map to start. So I bought like a 10 of those, and I got also some other stuff, so I had like 17 maps. But sieges were like 9 chaos, but I still count them as 10. So tier 15, 100 maps makes 1000 chaos. So you most of the time roll like half of the maps. I mean half of the count. So 50 chaos there. Chisels, sextants. I used primes and a little awakens. Some Valorbs. So these are all in the guide video. If you don't know what to do, if you don't know how to farm, I'm telling again, check my guide video, because it is very detailed and you can do this kind of farming if you watch it carefully, because I talked about everything in there and there aren't much detailed guides, so don't forget to check that. Sacrifice fragments 3 again. For Xanamods, let's talk about Xanamods real quick, and then I will compare the loot. So obviously you are looking at Beyond here, but I don't have Headhunter, so I'm not sure if I'm gonna buy this league, because I keep buying Headhunter every league. I'm not sure if I'm gonna buy it again. So if you have Headhunter, or maybe some Inspire Learnings, or maybe you are playing with a support, I don't know, you can go for Beyond. But with combined with Delirium, Beyond is way more dangerous compared to before. So I only use Beyond on maps that has already Beyond, or maybe maps that has a very big pack size and also good layout. So I know that I'm gonna spawn Beyond bosses. Because if you don't spawn Beyond bosses, this is just a waste of money. Because only the Beyond bosses can drop maps. So if you use Beyond in maps like Waterways, Channel, because you know you go thin corridors all the map, so there aren't much mobs stacked, so you cannot proc spawn Beyond bosses in those kind of maps if you don't have double Beyond in that map. So it is just waste of money, and if you don't have Headhunter or Inspired Learnings, you are gonna die probably every now and then. So I don't recommend Beyond if you just started farming. That's what I did. I maybe used Beyond in 10 maps because they already had Beyond, so it makes double Beyond. So if you are doing tier 15s like me, Bloodlines is probably the best choice because the Bloodline packs has a very high chance to drop at tier 15 or 16. So they provide a good sustain, and also Magic Monsters have more experience. And you can also go for Abyss. It is cheaper, but the loot is weaker compared to Bloodlines, talking about map drops. But if you are interested in doing Abyss, Abyss depths, those kind of stuff, just go for Abyss. But sometimes the Abyss cracks bugs and do not go in some maps, like again maybe Channel, those kind of thin corridor maps. Sometimes the Abyss just stops and disappears. That happens. So you can brick your 2 chaos. It sometimes happens, yes. So Abyss, Bloodlines, and some Beyond is what you are looking for. So that's why I put 300 chaos here, because most of them were Abyss and some Bloodlines and some Beyond. So this is just an average spent. Prophecies, I forgot to write the amount here, but they are like 1 chaos each at the moment, but they are gonna be like 2 chaos per prophecy later. So maybe 40 prophecies procced in a 100 map, because it is not a 100% chance to them to proc, you know, the prophecies. So these are the prophecies. If you don't know, just real quick, Tempest prophecies. So it's like maybe 40 chaos, maybe 30 chaos I spent. It's not much. I will edit later before posting the video. So the total spent almost 2,000 chaos. And let's check the profit real quick. And 23 exalted if you sell everything obviously, but you are not gonna sell tier 15s probably, so it is a little lower. But if you also subtract the spend here, it is gonna be the same profit always. So more than 20 exalt. Let's check and compare it to Metamorph. First, this was my first farm in Metamorph, so it should be the same, almost the same outcome normally. So let's just check the map drops and the profit, and that's it. So I got 153 maps total, right, in 3.10. Let's see what I got in Metamorph. 173, so it had more maps, because if you played in Metamorph, you know that Metamorph bosses drop lots of maps, and the mobs near the Metamorph, they drop insane amount of maps. So you can see that the difference is here. And also for some reason in Metamorph I got more tier 16s. Interesting. So more maps overall in Metamorph. But the tier 14s are the same, I believe. Tier 13s are 10 higher. The others are also a little higher. So overall more maps you can get in Metamorph League, and in Delirium you get less. But this is only a 100 map sample, so I'm gonna of course keep farming and post new videos. Maybe it will be a little different later, but obviously I now have more bonuses also, so it should also make some difference. But if I compare the loot with Metamorph to Delirium, the overall loot, Delirium is very bad. But we are gonna see it after the patch. So let's check the profit. So it actually seems close, only 2 exalt difference. So maybe after this Delirium buffs, maybe it can be better now, I don't know. So be sure to check that video when I publish it, probably next week. And that's about it, I believe. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.